our society is not just a line in a textbook. It is a shadow that walks with more than 1 billion people. Some people feel caste it softly, some people feel it sharply, and some carry it like a heavy stone tied to their identity. The caste decides who gets dignity and who must struggle for it. The caste shapes dreams, jobs, marriages, friendships, and even the courage with which people walk into a room. It is a system that did not appear just yesterday. It was designed carefully and it protected fiercely for centuries, becoming a kind of social machine that operates on inequality. In this mission, caste is not just a label, it is a form of social capital. For some, it opens doors even before they knock. Unfortunately for others, the doors are locked even before they arrive. Imagine going through the life with invisible walls around you, the walls that you did not build, but they are expected to obey. That is the story of millions whose humanity has been measured, graded, and restricted by an order that survives by controlling dignity itself. Untouchability did not disappear with modernity. It simply changed its dress. Its cruelty now appears in subtle moments. Who gets respect, who is rejected, who is mocked, who is silenced, and who is celebrated. Humiliation becomes routine, while opportunity becomes a luxury. Generations have carried this burden, passing down, not land, passing down, not the wealth, but memories of stigma, memories of warnings, memories of warnings about danger and strategies for survival. These memories are not old tales. They are living files inside the mind, shaping how a person walks, how a person talks, how a person smiles, and even how a person dreams. The caste order is a total power structure, a kind of invisible government that sits above our society. It governs imagination, it governs mobility, it governs hope. It decides how high someone may climb and how low they must stay. This is not just inequality. It is a system that demands loyalty from the privileged and silence from the oppressed. This system creates fear, obedience, and hierarchies that act like a social password. Some people get access granted and others get access denied. Even today in 2020. From the villages to the metros, from classrooms to the boardrooms, caste speaks in whispers and sometimes the caste shouts. It appears in the way people look at you suddenly, the way institutions behave, the way laws are implemented, and the way society explains failure. Always blaming the victim. Always blaming the victim, always predicting the structure. This is why some call it a form of caste terrorism. A long chain of intimidation that has been normalized so much that people forget to call it even violence. But the 21st century, it has also brought something new. People are no longer willing to sit quietly in the corner of assigned to them. The old narrative of silence. It is breaking. A new awareness is emerging, not just in India, but across the world. Social movements everywhere, they are starting to see caste as a human rights issue, not just an Indian problem. The world is beginning to understand that denying someone's dignity, because of birth. It is not a tradition. It is an injustice. An injustice once there begins to lose its sacred power. The purpose of speaking about caste today is not to divide our society. It is to reveal the truth behind the society. When we talk about caste openly, fear loses its power. When we challenge the old rules, courage becomes contagious. When we expose the architecture of upper caste supremacy in institutions, culture, and politics, so that we can reclaim our right to define who we are. This is where a new journey begins. Not a journey of revenge, but it is a journey of recognition. Not a journey of bitterness, but it is a journey of clarity. To speak about caste is to speak about hope. Because every truth spoken loudly weakens a lie that controls us quietly. And when millions begin to see themselves not as victims of system, but as creators of a new social imagination, so the world order begins to shake. The world order begins to shake. Caste has stolen too many lives, too many dreams, too much dignity, but it cannot steal the future. The future belongs to those who rise with awareness, who walk with courage, who stand with others, and who refuse to let their identity be dictated by someone else's prejudice. The future belongs to those who turn pain into power, memory into movement, and history into a new beginning. So, in this century, caste will not disappear by silence. It won't be disappear by silence. It will disappear by truth. It will disappear by unity, by relentless courage. And this courage is already alive in people, in voices, in movements, and in the growing conviction that every human soul, it deserves equality. It deserves respect, and it deserves the freedom to dream without fear. Being a Dalit in modern India is not just an identity. It is a state of constant negotiation with the world. It is like walking with a torch in a storm. The wind keeps blowing, but the flame refuses to die. Society tries to limit the flame with rules, old rituals, and invisible borders. Yet the light keeps rising. The light keeps rising because survival itself becomes an act of brilliance. Dalit life in today's caste capitalist India, it is not only a struggle over resources, but it is also over imagination, over dignity, over the right to exist with a human face. From childhood, many Dalits discovered from childhood that the world has already written a script for them. The moment they were born, a script is written. A script that says what they can become, what they must fear, what they must accept. But the most powerful moments happen when this script is torn apart and when it is rewritten. That rewriting is what truly defines Dalit being. Not the labels, not the limits, but the courage to say, I am here and I am not going anywhere. The urgency of being Dalit today is, it lies in the declaration, a refusal to let society shrink life into someone else's idea. But caste tries to deny history. Caste tries to deny personality. Caste tries to deny creativity and voice. It works like a silent editor, cutting out all the powerful parts from someone's story. It rewrites identity. It steals authorship and demands obedience. But Dalit identity responds like a poet who refuses to stop writing. Even when the ink dries, even when the pages are torn, the story continues in the mind, in the body, in the spirit. Humiliation tries to become the only teacher. But dignity, it quietly becomes the best student, learning how to rise even when pushed down. For generations, Dalits have lived in a strange sense of time, as if the past keeps walking beside the present. Memories of violence, memories of discrimination, memories of exclusion, they do not remain behind. They sit next to people at the dining table, travel with them to school, follow them to work. Yet, these memories also become a fuel, a reminder of resilience passed down like a prized inheritance. Others might inherit money or property, but Dalits, they inherit something even more powerful. That is an unbreakable memory of survival. Society, it often tries to create what can be called a civic debt, a kind of everyday invisibility. This invisibility is not natural. It is constructed. It appears in who is allowed to speak, who is ignored, who is marked, who is celebrated. It appears when talent is doubted, when dreams are discouraged, when achievements are met with surprise instead of admiration. Even in that visibility, the Dalit spirit, it keeps carrying space, climbing voice, shaping identity. When society tries to erase presence, presence becomes louder in silence, stronger in action. This experience of being Dalit, it can feel like living in a zone between time, not fully allowed to belong to history, not fully permitted to imagine the future. But the present, it becomes the battlefield, it becomes the laboratory, it becomes the garden. Being Dalit, it becomes an act of now, a declaration of existence in real time. Every step forward, it becomes a revolution. Every breath, it becomes a protest. Every achievement, it becomes a message that says, I will survive everything built to stop me. Structural violence. Structural violence. It tries to teach Dalits fear, but it ends up teaching them strategy. Humiliation tries to teach them weakness, but it ends up teaching wisdom. Exclusion, it tries to teach silence, but it ends up teaching wise. In this way, Dalit consciousness, it grows not from comfort, but from sharpness, like a seed that grows even in dry soil, like a lotus that rises from mud with dignity untouched. So many Dalits can walk into rooms where they were never meant to stand and they were never allowed to sit. So now they can say, don't worry, I brought my own chair. This spirit, it breaks the rules without breaking the peace. A calm defiance, a confident smile, and a fearless presence. Dalit identity, it is not a story of victimhood. It is a story of victory. It is a narrative of people who were expected to disappear but choose to shine. People who were denied history but became, they were history makers. People who were denied humanity but proved what humanity truly means. Their existence today, it is not the continuation of suffering, but the continuation of resistance. By standing tall, by refusing shame, by claiming space, Dalits show the world that liberation is not a distant dream. It is already happening. Every voice raised, every barrier crossed, every stereotype shattered. It is a step toward a future where dignity is not negotiated, but dignity is guaranteed. The energy carried within Dalit consciousness, it is not ordinary. It is revolutionary. It is the kind of energy that has the power to transform not only the oppressed, but the entire society that once believed inequality was normal. This is the power. This is the power of being Dalit today. A power born from truth, sharpened by struggle, strengthened by memory, and guided by hope. It is a power that refuses to die, that refuses to go, that refuses to vanish. And once this power rises, no force in the world can push it back into life. A powerful change is moving across India, like a quiet storm that suddenly learns to roar. A new generation, of Dalits, they are rising. They are rising not with fear in their eyes. They are rising with fire in their voice. They travel across classrooms. They travel across cities. They travel across continents. They carry a confidence that says this land belongs to us too. They are not waiting for approval anymore. They are claiming space with grace, with intelligence, with creativity, and with courage. This rising generation, it is global in its thinking. They have watched movements around the world stand up against injustice. They have watched movements that shook streets, toppled statues, and challenged centuries of discrimination. These global sparks, they have touched the Dalit conscience. And they have ignited a new kind of assertion. Earlier, the world rarely acknowledged the caste. But now, Dalit voices, they travel across borders with the speed of tweet, the strength of hashtag, and the clarity of lived truth. Social media, it has become the new battlefield where stereotypes collapse and courage goes viral. This Neo-Dalit movement, it is not built on raw anger alone. It is built on sharp understanding. It is built on bold analysis. It is built on strategic resistance. It is like poetry mixed with philosophy, activism mixed with intellectuality. It is powered by young minds who can discuss Ambedkar and artificial intelligence at the same time. They reject the old idea. They reject the old idea that Dalits must remain silent or they must remain apologetic. This generation, it walks into universities. They speak with a confidence that surprises those who expected silence from them. They challenge cultural dominance. They question appropriation. They break the rules that were designed to break them. The energy of this generation, it became visible when a young student's dream, when a PhD student's tragedy in Usmania University, it became a turning point in the nation's conscience. From that point onward, the country could no longer pretend that caste discrimination had disappeared. It stood exposed. It stood exposed, and the youth refused to look away. What makes this rise even more remarkable is the creativity behind this generation. Neo-Dalits, These youngsters, they use music, they use rap, poetry, photography, film, dance, theater, scholarship, and humor to express themselves. Means humor becomes a weapon, a mirror, and sometimes a sweet slap to the system. This movement stands on the belief that dignity is non-negotiable, equality is non-negotiable, freedom is non-negotiable. Dalits are stepping into leadership roles. They are stepping into journalism. Dalits are stepping into policy making, international forums, and cultural spaces with a sense of responsibility. They stand not just for themselves, but for democracy itself. They remind the country that true democracy is not built by loud speeches, but by the quiet insistence that every human being deserves respect. The most beautiful part of this rise is its calm courage. It's a calm, silent courage. It doesn't seek permission, but it seeks justice. It doesn't desire pity, but it demands equality. It doesn't imitate the oppressor, but it redefines power. Neo-Dalits are building their own vocabulary, their own art, their own political imagination. They refuse to be trapped by the past, but they refuse to forget it. Instead, they convert history into strength and adversity into wisdom. This wave of Neo-Dalit consciousness, it is not a small repeat. It is a tide that is reshaping India's social landscape. It is a reminder that when people who were always pushed down begin to stand tall, the entire horizon changes. Dalits today, they are no longer just fighting for space. They are redesigning the map. They are redesigning the map. They are becoming the protectors of equality, the voices of justice, and the heartbeat of a new nation, where dignity is not granted by caste, but guaranteed by humanity. That is our new India. This rise is not temporary. It is generational. It is not fragile. It is fierce. And it carries within it a truth that cannot be silenced anymore. The future belongs to those who rise with courage, who speak with clarity, and who walk with the certainty that no system can erase their humanity. So, Dalit identity is not a single color on a canvas. It is a full festival of shades, rhymes, stories, dreams, rhythms. It is a universe of experiences, not a small category created by society. For too long, people try to describe Dalits with one word, one stereotype, one image. But when you look closer, you see an entire galaxy of talent, resistance, and imagination. Dalit identity, it is layered like the earth itself, cultural, political, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. So all flowing together constantly. There is a vibrant cultural wave which has transformed Dalit expression into something powerful and something beautiful. Folk singers, poets, rappers, theatre artists, and performers, they are rewriting what culture means in this country. Their voices, they carry history, humor, and fire. They stand on stage and turn culture, they turn centuries of pain into poetry, centuries of silence into song. Oppressive symbols that once dominated Dalit spaces are being replaced with new icons of dignity. The blue flag, It rises where fear once stood. And the message is clear. Culture is not owned by caste. Culture is owned by people. On the other side, political Dalits, they are reshaping the language of justice. They speak with the confidence of those who have read Ambedkar, Pule, Buddha, not as textbooks. They read not as textbooks, but as survival manuals. Survival manuals. These political thinkers, they do not follow the old categories of loyalty. They break the chains. They break the chains of chimcha politics. And they build alliances based on dignity, not imitation. Their political imagination is sharp. Their political imagination is creative. Their political imagination is deeply rooted in social transformation. Then there is the Dalit middle class. An interesting and something confusing breed. It is. This middle class, they walk between two worlds. They walk between two worlds. One world demands aspirations, English education, corporate lifestyle, global exposure. Then the other world, it demands authenticity, connection to community, memory, and roots. They carry laptops and history in the same bag. Their struggle is unique, balancing ambition with responsibility, climbing upward without losing the ground beneath their feet. And when they succeed, when this middle class succeed, they disturb every stereotype that assumed Dalits were meant for the margins. Then Dalit women, they add another extraordinary dimension to this identity. Their strength is a quiet earthquake. They carry labor. They carry labor on their shoulders, trauma in their memories, and resilience in their bones. They fight on multiple fronts: caste, gender, class. Yet they walk with an elegance that shocks the system. Their agency is powerful. Their leadership is transformative. When Dalit women rise, the entire movement it gains a new heartbeat. And then we have the globalized Dalits who carry their identity across continents. They move between Mumbai and Melbourne, Hyderabad and Houston, Chennai and Chicago. They speak multiple languages. They speak multiple languages. They engage in global human rights in their conversations. They build networks and they challenge caste wherever it travels. Their identity, it becomes a bridge between cultures, making Dalit issues part of global justice movements. All of these shades, cultural, political, middle class, women, they all come together like a giant orchestra. Each group, it plays a different instrument, but the music is one. This diversity is not a weakness. It is a superpower. The movement becomes stronger because it has many doors through which courage enters. Some bring art, some bring activism, some bring scholarship, some bring strategy, and some bring global vision. Together, they create a mosaic that refuses to be simplified or that refuses to be silenced. The beauty of Dalit identity today is dynamism. It's a dynamism. It moves in many directions at once. It grows, it adapts, it reinvents, and it refuses to be trapped in old boxes. It dances between tradition, it dances between modern day. Dalit identity is not a static label, it is a living force, a force that expands with every poem written, every protest organized, every university degree earned, and every song sung, every parallel charted. This richness, it shows that Dalits are not rising in one way, they are rising in every way. Their voices are many, their paths are many, their shades are many, and each shade, it adds a new layer of meaning to what it means to resist, what it means to hope, what it means to fight, what it means to dream, what it means to rise with dignity. The rise of Dalit middle class is one of the most fascinating social changes in modern India. Education opened the doors, English gave the key, and urban life gave the space. Suddenly, Dalits who were once pushed out of schools, they are now sitting in boardrooms, they are sitting in universities, and they are sitting in international conferences. This is not just progress. This is history taking a deep breath. But the journey of the Dalit middle class is not a smooth elevator ride. It is the staircase. It is a staircase with missing steps. On one side, dominant caste do not fully accept it. They may shake hands, but the eyes still measure caste before caste. On the other side, the middle class Dalits sometimes feel like a guest in their own community. They feel like a guest in their own community, caught between aspirations and activism. This is the double alienation. This is the double alienation. A feeling of being in two worlds, and not fully belonging to either. Even then, even in spite of all these barriers, they rise. They rise because Ambedkarite thinking gives them a backbone made of clarity. Their activism is not a weekend hobby. It is a life compass. They read Ambedkar not for exams, but for survival. They carry his ideas like armor. However, they walk into institutions that were not designed for them and turning those spaces into classrooms of equality. They start organizations, they lead unions, and they run the cultural foundations, and they mentor the next generation with pride. They become the coaches. They become the coaches. They become the guides. They are becoming the strategists, quietly shaping a new social imagination. But this rise comes with dangers. When someone climbs the social ladder, there is always the temptation to throw the ladder away. Some begin to imitate the very culture that once excluded them. The accent, the lifestyle, the arrogance, the distance. This mimicry, it may bring comfort, but it is also brings a slow disconnection from the people who need them the most. Aspirational blindness. It can turn into a kind of social illusion, making progress look bigger than it really is. One middle class success story. One middle class success story, it can never erase the painful realities still faced by millions. Education remains the most trusted tool. English becomes a sword that cuts through stigma. Digital access, it becomes a stage where Dalit voices finally speak without waiting for permission. A smartphone, it becomes a revolution in the pocket. A way to document injustice, share art, build networks, and create new narratives. The Dalit middle class, they uses these tools not just for personal growth, but for community importance. Their leadership, it becomes important because they stand at a unique crossroads. They stand at a unique crossroads. They know the pain of the past and they know the promise of the future. They understand village realities and they understand urban pressures. They can translate the language of suffering into the language of policy, language of advocacy, language of rights. Their role is not just to rise individually, but to lift others along the way. The greatest strength of this group lies in its potential to bridge the gap between two worlds. The biggest responsibility is to remain accountable. Remain accountable. True progress. It means returning to the community, not running away from community. It means using privilege as a tool, not as a shield. It means remembering that the struggles of the marginalized are not solved by one generation's success. They are solved by many generations of solidarity. The Dalit middle class, they today stands like a lighthouse. It shines because it survived the storm. But its purpose is not just to shine. Its purpose is to guide. To guide the youth, inspire the poor, challenge the powerful, and remind society that rising from oppression, it is not an accident. It is a collective achievement built on sacrifice, struggle, and the unstoppable spirit of dignity. A Dalit entrepreneur starting a business is not just starting a company. They are starting a new chapter in social. Every invoice, it becomes a declaration. Dignity is not negotiable, and opportunity is not the property of a few. This journey is not simple. The market claims to be neutral, but the shadows of feudal structure, they still follow people into boardrooms and business meetings. Caste networks, they slip into corporate corridors with the confidence of old kings walking into new palaces. Many Dalit entrepreneurs, they walk into these rooms with brilliant ideas and unmatched determination. Yet they discover that the invisible walls of caste, they have simply changed their paint color. The old gatekeepers, now they wear suits, but the gates remain. This is why Dalit capitalism, it cannot survive on imitation. It cannot become a copy of the same system that created inequality. It needs a different engine. It needs a different engine, one powered by Ambedkarite. This means building business with a fairness at the center, with dignity as a policy, not as a fare. It means creating workspaces where no one someday decides their future, where no one is reduced to a stereotype, and where talent speaks louder than privilege. Dalit capitalism, it becomes meaningful only when it stands not as a mirror of neoliberal greed, but as a challenge to caste monopoly. It is not about attacking people. It is about dismantling a system that has sat on the throne of Indian society for centuries and it refused to get up. This system of hierarchy, it is like old software It running the country in the background. This caste system, it is like a board software which is running our country from the background. Even when New India tries to install or uninstall or upgrade, the old program keeps popping up saying access denied. It controls institutions quietly. It shapes economy. It shapes politics. It influences bureaucracy like a guest who arrives early and never leaves. It decides who gets opportunities, who becomes invisible, and who is treated as naturally superior. The power of this system lies in its ability to hide behind culture, behind tradition, behind the movement against this caste hierarchy. It is not a fight for revenge, but it is a fight for balance. It is about naming the structure so that it cannot hide anymore. Once something is named, it begins to lose its magic. When inequality is exposed, it cannot pretend to be culture. When hierarchy is confronted, it cannot pretend to be spirituality. Progressive voices across castes, including many from privileged groups, they are beginning to challenge the same caste system that once benefited. Once they were benefited, now they are questioning the very same system. This is a powerful sign that social transformation is not a private project. It is a collective responsibility. It is a collective responsibility. Together, Dalit capitalism and the critic of caste hierarchy, they create a powerful narrative. One pushes for economic liberation and the other pushes for ideological liberation. One builds new opportunities, the other creates old obstacles. One dreams of a marketplace where everyone stands equal, and the other dreams of a society where no identity stands above another. When these two forces they work together, something extraordinary, the map of the power, the map of power, it begins to shape. The story of our nation, it begins to rewrite itself. The hope lies in this new alignment. Dalit entrepreneurs rising with integrity, progressive allies, dismantling outdated ideologies, and growing consciousness that equality cannot be postponed any longer. The future being imagined here is not a fragile dream. It is determined vision. A future where capitalism is not a trap, but a tool. A future where caste is not a destiny, but a defeated relief. A future where people are valued for their work, not their work. A future where systems serve society, not the other way around. This is the future that begins when economic courage meets ideological. A future where dignity is no longer borrowed from society but built from within. A future where caste loses its power and humanity gains its place.